Yes, please
Well,
go ahead.
thank you, Chair, and through you, of course, I thank all the folks that are here today testifying. It's been very informative so far. So I'm going to come to you first, Mr. Guindon, and I think my first question is if you could just talk a little bit about. You talked in your testimony about the culture that is there and how that feels very familiar for veterans and for RCMP who are retired that come and work there. So I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about what that culture is and why you feel it's so appealing. And it sounds like people settle into the job fairly quickly. That would be helpful. And then the other part of the question is just around numbers. So, you know, about how many veterans do you have working, how many RCMP, if you have any numbers around that, that would be also very helpful.
Well, first on the culture side of things, the armed forces is a multitude of small families from coast to coast that makes this big family at the end of the day. Commissionaire is very similar to that. And veterans come with this understanding that teamwork is very important, is crucial. And in fact, not only veterans do enjoy the environment, but non-veterans in our workforce became very accustomed to this way of thinking at things and looking at things and delivering as a team, not as an individual. In terms of number of veterans, as I said in my opening remark, we're about 4,400-ish, quite a bit down from previous decade or two or three ago. And as I said, there are reasons for that. However, we seem to have stabilized, and we recruit about 700 every year. And we knew we had this demographic bubble that was recognized about 18 years ago, that a lot of veterans were reaching retirement from us. And as an aside, when a veteran joins the Corps, the vast majority will work many years. In fact, I celebrated a commissionaire about a month ago who just completed his 50th year with commissionaire, and that's after having served 3.5 years in the military. And he's only 72 years old, okay? So he's been working since he was 17, 18. And we have a recognition program, which also is part of our culture. We recognize employees, we recognize longevity. We've launched recently a national program where we recognize, the best supervisor and the best guard across the country. So, there's a multitude of things that create this environment that is very similar to the military because, no big secret, the Corps is led overwhelmingly by veterans as well. So we bring this to the table.
Thank you. That was very helpful. We've also heard through research that some of the most challenged veterans in terms of finding employment, and you've talked about this particular group, is newer veterans. They don't have as much experience. They don't bring a pension with them, so sometimes there can be challenges there. But there's also challenges for those who are medically released and for women veterans. So I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about what you think is so successful in bringing brand new veterans in and how that assists. But if you have any other information talking specifically around medically released veterans and women veterans.
I'll pass the mic to my our chief of staff here, but before I do, you're quite right. 70% roughly of veterans do not have a pension because the retirement age average is 36 years old.
Yeah, thanks. The other, I guess, part of the question is that a number of veterans don't join just after the military. Many of them will leave the service, and we saw that a lot. You get a young corporal who does 4 or 5 years and says, you know what, it was great, but it's time to move on. I'm going to go do something else. And they do something else until they can't do it anymore, and that's when they often come to us in their late 40s to sort of late 50s. Because they only served for 4 or 5 years, they don't qualify for a pension. So these are the folks that I think are the most important to us because we give them, we provide them a living for them and their families. To get to the point of your question, no. A number of veterans that leave the armed forces, and again, they leave at different stages. We also have a number of veterans that leave after 20, 25, 30 years, and for them, because they have a pension, it's less the work itself isn't as important as as Paul mentioned earlier on, as the ability to work with other veterans and to have that sense of camaraderie, that sense of belonging, that sense of mission. For the young veterans that are leaving, they're the ones that they're another group that we're trying to recruit. We spoke earlier about the veteran employment and training benefit. One of our offerings is for individuals that take advantage of that can come to us for part-time work while they're studying, and we will go out of our way to make sure that we give them enough shifts to help them along their way. And speaking of the benefit, 2 of my staff have taken advantage of the benefit. One of them is doing it right now in a partnership with us to get an MBA, actually. So.
Thank you, sir.